97.7 WBMC. Justin Reed is my name. Pause the phone lines. We're excited to have, he's a week late, but that's fine. Yeah. Dr. Grant Swallows is in with the Director of Schools for the Warren County School System. Appreciate you rescheduling, being with us.
Well, thank you. Sorry that I missed last week. I threw the order all out of whack, and I apologize about that. But a little under the weather last week, so appreciate it. I didn't figure you wanted me coming in under the weather.
I appreciate that when guests do consider the host, because I've had that happen before, and then you get what they had, and you go, thanks.
Yeah, right.
I appreciate that. But it is our monthly visit.
Yeah.
Chad Graves is still in studio. I'm now thinking that you really didn't want to sit in with me and that you really wanted to visit with Dr. Swallows.
I really enjoyed my visit with you this morning, Justin.
Enjoyed as if it's already over.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's not, makes me feel like chopped liver. Appreciate that.
He just wants to come hang out with the cool kids.
No, that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Which means I'm at the wrong table.
No.
Because I was never at that table.
Well, that's what we said. You know, it's. I'm just glad to have him. It's good. Our monthly visit turned into an exclusive visit somehow.
Right.
And so I'm not sure exactly how that happened. But
me neither. I just turned around.
Nevertheless, I'm glad people are excited to listen about the schools, because I'm happy to talk about schools all day long.
That's what I was going to say, all day, every day. But
that's right.
In case you're just joining us, you've never heard it before, normally every second Tuesday of the month, Dr. Grant Swallows comes on for about an hour and just gives all the school info that you want and then some.
That's right. I expect everybody that's listening today to be back the second Tuesday of next month.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. That's what we want as well.
It works out well for all.
That's right. That's
one of those things. We probably have some but some stuff on the to-do list today to talk about.
Okay.
But one that I wonder about, that you and I have been talking, you started your monthly visits. Well, you came on in July, and then you started monthly visits in August.
Mm-hmm.
The yonder pouches in the cell phones.
Yeah.
Because last time you had just gotten the pouches in, correct?
Right.
And you were starting to implement them.
We have. Our schools have gotten those, and they are working through trying to make sure that we have everything in order before we roll them out.
Okay.
Because it's not going to be an easy rollout, because you're changing the way we're doing things.
And it's been, as you were saying last month, it's kind of in a good rhythm at the moment.
It is, and that was the other reason, was that we felt like that the kids were doing what they needed to do responsibly, and so we didn't really want to change that up. But I think we've kind of got, not that they've stopped doing what they should do responsibly, but we all along this has been the plan,
right?
And we knew that kind of once the novelty of the policy kind of wore off, that this would continue to be a challenge, because kids are kids and they want to have their cell phones, and we get that. So now the next step for us is bringing the pouches in. And so each school, the middle school and high school, are where we're going to start, and they have those pouches. And so the administrations of the school are working on what that would look like.
Okay.
They've got to get the magnets mounted in the right places.
Which is what unlocks and then unlocks the pouch.
Well, it actually just unlocked.
Okay.
I think that was a error that I maybe put out there at the beginning.
Well, then I forgive you.
Yeah. So to lock that pouch, you can do that manually. Actually, you just take it and fold it over and push the pin through.
Okay.
And then the pin locks itself. And then after that, the magnet is the only thing that can unlock it at that point. So we'll be able to post those or put those on the wall at the end of the day. Kids can go by, demagnetize their bag, and be gone. So it's interesting. I'm not exactly sure. Can't give you an exact date for that, but I'm going to guess that sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas we'll roll that out and be ready to really go full steam ahead into the 2025.
That's a perfect time to do so, because that's a weird 2.5, 3 weeks anyways.
Yeah.
So why not try something new?
There you go.
Do the kids get to keep their yonder pouch all the time?
So it will be assigned to them. And so that's one of the things that the schools are working on, because there are schools that we've researched that basically say you have to have your yonder pouch every day. It's almost like dress code. You've got to be in compliance with dress code, but you also have to have you got to have your Chromebook. 2, you got to have your yonder pouch. Even if you don't have a phone in it, you got to have your yonder pouch. Now, you're telling me if you didn't bring your phone to school today, I'm going to be a little suspect about that.
Right.
99% of the kids walking Warren County High School have a phone or a device in some form or fashion. So that's what the administration's having to work out. how are we going to check that? How are we going to make sure? But to your question, yes, every kid will be assigned a Yonder pouch. We are giving those. Lots of schools make the kids purchase those. We use some of our ESSER money to do that for the school system, for our kids. They'll have that, and then they'll be able to keep up with that every day. Now, if they damage it or lose it, then they'll be financially responsible for that. So it's really an advantage for them. Again, I have a freshman daughter who doesn't drive, and so she has to leave her phone at home or with a parent or with a brother every day because she has cheerleading practice afterwards. And so it's like the great balancing act of where does the phone go? And so having that pouch for her, I think, will be a benefit. Now, some kids are saying, well, I leave mine in my car. Listen, there's nothing saying that you can't do that. We want you to be responsible with that. But at the same time, we're starting to see kids want to try to sneak it in their backpack or pull it out and take it to the bathroom. And, those are the things that basically the policy says we're not going to do that. And we're going to hold true to that.
Well, I'm glad for that update because I knew, like I said, I knew you were getting them on. Maybe you could do like they used to do in Sunday school. And you do a Bible check, and everybody just hold their Bible up, and then that's how you know who brought it to class or not.
That's right, and we've talked about that. Actually, teachers being at the door, and basically, you walk through and you show me your pouch, and that you've got it, and that your phone's in there, and that it's locked up. And again, we realize that we're adding a lot to already an extremely busy schedule for teachers and students. But as I've said on this program, Justin, several months. We've just seen so many positives out of this, and I get that it's not something that people love, but at the same time, kids are being able to focus on what they need to focus on, do what they need to do at school, and not be distracted by all the outside world. And we want to continue to focus on that.
Well, I think they're doing a good job, and I'm glad that we're doing that, being pioneers in that regard, because other people are watching what we're doing.
Well, we went to a school board conference a couple of weeks ago, and some of our school board members talked about that with others. And I can't tell you how many people are now calling us and saying, tell us what you did. Because, one, I think the state is actually going to adopt this policy statewide. I think it was in legislation last year.
Okay.
I will not be shocked if it doesn't come up again. But even if it doesn't, there are several school systems around that are saying, that makes a lot of sense. We want to do what they did or what they are doing. And like you said, we like to be pioneers.
Right. That's it. Dr. Grant Swallows is in, Director of Schools for Warren County. Justin Reed's my name. Chad Graves sitting in on Town Talk as well. I've got one more question. We're going to take a break because, he's here, wants me to pay the bills. But before we do that, something interesting has happened since we've seen each other last, in that we've had a school in our district celebrate 100 years.
That's right.
Centertown celebrated a century, and that's phenomenal.
Right. It is. It's they had a celebration out there, and even at the county commission meeting last night, people were talking about what a great celebration that was, and the kids actually put on a program that actually went from 1920. They every decade up until 2020, they celebrated some not issues, but some things that were from those decades all the way through 100 years. And so sang some songs and did some dances. And I think there were some of the old time dances that were done,
Charleston and two-step.
That's right. So it was really neat. I think one thing about all of our schools in Warren County that's really interesting, especially in our communities, maybe outside the city, there's just a community involvement.
Oh, yeah.
And Centertown is no different. And so they're very proud of the fact that it's the centennial, and they should be. Centertown's had a long history of tradition of excellence. At Centertown, they love that school. That community loves that school, and it shows. Unfortunately, I was out of town at a conference, the one that I've discussed with you with the school board, and could not attend. But
doesn't the conference know how important this was?
Yeah, right. And so I can't tell you how many people have made comments, and the Centertown elementary faculty and staff were very thrilled about that. And I mean, it's amazing that 100 years,
right?
I mean, 100 years of a school now. They've got a little booklet. If anybody's interested in that, I would encourage you to maybe reach out to the school. I think they've got some extra that talks about the history of Centertown, which I learned a lot. People like to tell me, quote unquote, you ain't from here. And so I've learned a lot reading through that book. And they had a list of all the principals of Centertown School and where it's been and all the things that have gone through. But it was really neat, a really good event for Centertown and even for our county.
You never know what's going to celebrate a monumental milestone next.
That's right.
Our milestone is we're hitting the break on time.
All right.
So we're going to take that 90 seconds. We're back. Dr. Grant Swallows, Justin Reed, Chad Graves in as well on Town Talk. And we're back here on Town Talk 97.7 WBMC. Justin Reed is my name. I am your co-host. Chad Graves is my co-host. My sidekick. You're riding the sidecar today.
Well, Justin, it's pretty nice to be here.
Right.
Certainly can't do this as well as you, but it's nice just to be able to have a conversation with you and with Dr. Grant Swallows today.
And he is our guest of the day. We always enjoy our monthly report card updates for the school system. Now, I'm going off script here, and I haven't fact-checked, but we have an independent fact-checker for our program,
Okay.
Kevin Hobbs.
Oh, all
He
right.
sends me notes all the time, and he says, Mr. Swallows was the 1997 Mr. Football.
Yeah, that's
Played
true.
at Livingston Academy.
That is true.
We welcome him. Of course, he's a member of the Tennessee Tech Sports Hall of Fame as well. Did you know that?
I did not know
2012
that.
class. So he knows what he's doing.
A few years ago, if you look at me, people are like, no, there's no way that's the case. But, it's been a few years ago, unfortunately. But, yes, football and athletics has been good to me throughout my life.
So I think we have to mention White County here and, how well White County has done with their football schedule. And they have a Mr. Football candidate as well.
Yeah, very proud of them. I know I haven't been there in 4.5 years now, but their monumental win for them Friday night. They won their first ever second-round game to move into the state quarterfinals, and so very proud for them. And I will say that there were some text messages flying back and forth on Friday night because, there was a time in White County where when I was the principal, we were 3-27 over a course of 3 years, and so I sent some messages to some folks that were there then and said, "It's been a long time since 3-27. I'm very proud of you." And they've stayed the course, and they are experiencing that success. And just think about the community there. They get to host a game Friday night in state quarterfinals, and there are going to be people everywhere in that stadium. So,
and we are broadcasting that live.
I was going to say on our sister station.
All right,
because we have the two stations in Sparta as well, both
right.
Mullet and Yurt FM.
That's right. Well, it's going to be a great night, and people I know in White County are fired up, and they play Macon County, who they've already beaten once this year. But, you get to play them a second time. Football, that doesn't always happen.
Nope.
So should be an interesting night in Sparta.
So you can catch that on our sister station, 92.7 Yurt FM, Paxton Elmore will be on the call. And I talked to him yesterday. He was excited about it.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
Because he gets to go to as many games as they get to go to. So it just works out well for everybody involved.
Good.
You want to address the elephant in the room, or you want to let him sit there for a few more minutes?
No, let's talk about it. Yeah.
You're not the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Some news has come out since you and I saw each other last here on this airwaves about football here in Warren County.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let you pick up the story, then we'll ask questions.
Well, I think the fair statement is there's been several pieces of news about the football program, and since we've seen each other last. So, the Pioneers finished their season, and I don't want to let that go and say that, on the outside looking in, there was what has been touted in the newspaper and around was a winless season, and certainly we did not win any football games. We were 0-10, and but I got to say a few things to the team after the last game, and said these very things that I'm going to say to you is that I'm very proud of the young men that finished that season, because the easy thing to do would have been to go do something else.
Right.
But we had a dedicated group of men and young men and coaches that finished the season. And I know it couldn't have been easy because it's not fun to lose. You don't suit up in July in the heat and do all the weight training and the running and practice so that you can show up every Friday night and not win. We get that, and it's hard, but those lessons that those young men learned will continue throughout their life. And I just wanted them, first of all, to know how proud I was individually, personally, of them doing what they did to finish out the year. But following that season, as we always do, from a district standpoint, and really more so as a school. Our principal and athletic directors and coaches sit down and talk about where the program is and what's going on. And first, a big decision that had to be made, and it's been talked about throughout our community. And really, Chad referenced this with White County. A few years ago in White County, we made the decision to go to what's called a non-region schedule, which basically means TWSAA has regions, and so football teams play in a region. You can request to go non-region and not have to play those teams, which basically just says you can go out and play 10 games that you schedule yourself, but you're not eligible to go to the postseason. And it's a big decision,
right?
And in White County, it was a big decision, but they had some success with that. And I think that's been something in our community that people have said, well, maybe we need to consider that. And the reality of it, Justin and Chad, is that, we've not had a lot of success winning on the football field in the last few years. And so that was something that there were multiple meetings, multiple discussions, lots of different talk between athletic director, coach, and principal and ADs and principal and myself. And so ultimately we got to the point where we had to make the decision by November the 1st to petition the TWSAA to do that, which we did. And so,
does he do it in 2-year increments? What I learned from you last time.
That's right, 2-year scheduling increments. And so we made that petition, and then so they put out the regions here recently, and so we know that petition has been granted. So for the next 2 years, our football program is going to play a non-region schedule. But then furthermore, and obviously I think what the community is aware of and has been talking about since last Friday is that that Warren County High School announced that they were moving on from Coach Matt Turner and making the decision to really just start fresh. That's basically what was communicated. And, we could spend the next hour talking about this, and I have a feeling we probably will. But it's one of those things to where it's tough. Right. It's tough. Our community loves Matt Turner. Our school system loves Matt Turner, and Matt's done a great job over six seasons. But I really want you to understand what I said in my statement was the decision shouldn't diminish what Matt Turner's done in Warren County and what he's done for our student athletes, because he is a great leader of young men. I said that in my statement. I think those were my exact words. And it's not easy for anybody, but sometimes you get to the place, Justin, where you got to make decisions that maybe not are the most popular as you examine the full area of where we are as a program. And again, sometimes the circumstances dictate that more than the man. And I think that's something we can definitely say in this situation. We're in a place to where we have an opportunity to reset, reboot the football program, because if you look at the facts of it, since 1980 we've had 2 winning seasons. Right. And so again, I'm not saying that winning is everything. I will tell you, and I guarantee you I could go for an hour about that. But
you've got our agreement on that. Winning is not everything.
But at the same time, we need to make sure that we're putting a program in place where our student athletes can participate, be successful in what we're choosing to do. And so with that being said, if we're going to do something, we want to do it well. And so not that we've not done that, but again, the history speaks for itself. We've had struggles with, throughout the years. Mm-hmm. And so this is a unique opportunity for Warren County High School to reset, reboot that. And so I think the decision was made there is that we're just going to make a complete reset, complete reboot, and we're going to go forward with somebody else at the helm. And, again, we knew that decision would be met with various emotions. Right. Because I can say, there has been lots of chatter about that. I use that word frequently because, I'm not a member of McMinnville chatter, but
neither am I.
People tell me I'm often the topic of McMinnville chatter.
Which is why I'm not a member, because if I'm the topic, I don't want to know.
That's right. So, again, but I get that. Here's what I said to Matt Turner. I love the fact that our community is making their feelings known about him, because that shows me that the people that were also in McPinnville chatter six weeks ago, who were complaining about the fact that we weren't competitive in football, look what's happened now. We've transitioned into Matt Turner's a great man, and he did a great job.
Right.
And so that's also what I want to say. If I made decisions for the school system based on the chatter of social media, we never would get anything done. And that's no offense, because what I want to say about our community is that I appreciate the fact that they're passionate about our school system and about our community. That's why I come on here, Justin. I could use this hour in other ways, but I want to talk about our school system and talk about the great things. And I'm not going to shy away from the controversial topics like what's just happened over the last few days.
Or a few months ago when the arts need cut, or whatever the controversial topic was of the month.
You got it. And so, again, I just want to make sure that people listening understand that this is not something that was, that we fly by the seat of our pants and we make decisions just off, just because we're sitting around someday and say, hey, let's do this.
Right.
This was a long process of conversations. And again, I will say that takes place at the school level. Our athletic directors spend a lot of time talking about what's going on with our coaches. And then, in turn, those athletic directors work with our principal, and then their principal works with me, and then that's the way it works.
Yeah,
that's the process. And so,
and above you is the school board.
That's right. And so, I do want to say, though, lots of people have asked me, well, did the school board make this decision? You know what? The school board's elected to do one thing, or a couple things. One is policy.
Yep.
They're set to enforce policy, and the second thing is they hire and could potentially fire a director. Let's hope they don't do that.
And that would be you.
That's right. So I am their one employee. I am tasked at that point of making all the other decisions that for the efficient operation of the district. So anybody that somebody called, or it's not called, but emailed me and said, well, did the school board make this decision? That's not a school board decision.
Right.
That they ultimately make policy decisions, and any personnel decision is the director of schools. Let me say this: their policy, their personnel decision is the director of schools. So again, I just want people to understand where that is and what that process is. I get that people aren't necessarily, not all people are happy about that decision, but at the same time, it's incumbent upon all of us to take every piece of information we have, put it all together, and make the best informed decision that we can. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to work hard going forward to put things in place, because here's the important part. In order to change what we have experienced in our football program over the last 30, 40, 50 years, there's not going to be one thing that's going to change it. Changing the coach is not going to change it, because here's the deal. We've had several coaches over that span.
Yep.
Changing the coach is not going to be the one thing. Going non-region is not going to be the one thing. Building a new football complex at the high school is not going to be that one thing.
Which I do want to talk about a little later.
But we'll do that after the news.
But yeah, I get the feeling I need to shut up. But
I didn't say that. I was telling him we're going to get to that.
So, but those one things are not going to be what quote unquote fixes our program. It's got to be all those things working together. And again, we've referenced White County. I can tell you, going non-region, that decision wasn't what turned them around. There were a multitude of decisions and hard work that put that in place for them to be successful. And again, define success however you want to define success. For me, it's about giving our students, not just in football, marching band, beta club, whatever it is, we want to give our students the best experience that they can have. Now, are we perfect? Absolutely not. But we want to give them the experience, the best experience they can have to learn, because that's what it is. It's education-based athletics. Yeah. It's not just athletics. It's education-based athletics.
That's why you go to school.
That's right. And so we're here to try to learn and to teach lessons through that. And sometimes losing, you teach a lot of lessons.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're looking for the opportunity to put a program in place that kids can experience that. I'm a believer that we need programs to where kids can wake up every morning and say, well, I'm excited to go to school because I get to A, B, and C.
Right.
I wish they would say that about English, math, and science and social studies, but that's not often the case. They wake up and say, I can't wait to go so I can practice marching band, or can't wait to go because I've got a beta club meeting after.
Or I get to go to shop class, or I get to
absolutely
whatever the case may be.
So again, while football has gotten a lot of chatter here recently, we make these decisions all the time.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what program it is. We want our kids to have the opportunity to be successful, be competitive, and have a great experience. And that's really why we are where we are. We're trying to take an opportunity to reset and give that program a boost. And again, I want to reiterate that I have a lot of respect for Matt Turner. I think lots of people do. This is not an indication upon him as a man or a leader. It is simply a decision that was made to try to reset the program and give the opportunity to move forward.
You heard it from the man himself. Not what I think he said or what Chad Graves sitting in with me thinks he said. The word from Dr. Grant Swallows himself. Can you give me 122 seconds?
Sure.
It's 2 minutes and 2 seconds. We got the news and weather. We'll be back. More of our monthly report card here on Town Talk. Justin Reed is my name. So glad to be here along with you. I am your co-host. I've got a sidekick today riding in the sidecar. Got those goggles on. He's looking sharp today. Chad Graves sitting in with me as we get to visit with Dr. Grant Swallows. He's in the car ahead of us. We're just trying to follow him at this point.
I don't know about that. Can you have two sidecars? Can I be on the other sidecar?
Now, wouldn't that be a fun visual?
Yeah. We might end up in the paper for that picture.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you'd think we would, and then we probably wouldn't. But anyways, this is our monthly report card visit, looking at all things Warren County school system. Normally the second Tuesday of the month. We've had to push that back. Somebody decided to get sick on me, but that's okay. I think in hindsight it probably worked out better that you got to come on this week as opposed to last week. Dr. Grant Swallows is here. Doesn't shy away from any question, and he likes to inform us of all things that we need to know. Did you have a lead-off question, or do I need to go?
Well, we've been talking about Matt Turner, and I was just going to say Matt Turner has been my friend and buddy for a long time. We graduated high school together in '97. We worked on homecoming floats together. So I hate it for Matt Turner. I hate how the sort of everything. I just hate it for Matt Turner right now because I know that he's hurting a little bit, and he loves the Pioneers. But sometimes I guess decisions, have to be made for, that the collective thinks are, the best way forward for the program. So, but anyway, just want to say, Matt, we love you.
Yes, we do. Thanks for the work that you've done. We appreciate that.
All right.
While we're thinking about congratulating people, I want to congratulate Dr. Courtney Bennett.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. I'm on your Facebook page, by the way, Warren Schools TN. That's where you guys share info.
That's right.
That people such as myself can pull and learn from. But
So she's actually been on the technology, on that board. She served on that for the last several years, and so she was reelected to that. And so she's done this for several years, and we're very fortunate, I think, to have her voice on a statewide committee talking about that. And she's been a leader in that area, certainly in virtual learning as well. And that's one of the things that I think is interesting about our county. We don't necessarily realize how fortunate we are to have some folks and then some programs that we have. Our virtual school, Warren Connect, is one of the few in the area.
Yeah.
And so it's been good for us. And again, I think her voice on the state board or state committee has been good to help us to understand what the needs are throughout the state, and then also be able to advocate for those things on the state level. So, so proud of her, and I think it's a 2-year,
it is a 2-year
term.
So it's the Tennessee Educational Technology Association. And the steering committee.
Well, and also her work, through her work, they have a conference the first week in December. And she nominated Chris Cope to go down and share about the cell phone policy. So,
good.
So even more, stuff that's going to be talked about with Warren.
And I know Chris well enough to know that he'd be glad to go down and talk about the cell phone policy.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Good morning to you, Chris. Hope you're out there this morning. But I saw that. That was impressive.
Yeah.
For Dr. Bennett. So
yeah.
I'm glad you guys share that. I know sometimes you can't share all the info as soon as you want to share it, but what I do like is the other day there was a fire alarm pulled, and immediately I saw it on my Facebook feed. Yeah. You're getting the word out there.
Well, there's a multitude of reasons for that. One, I guess really I can talk about that. The reason I'm pausing for a second. So 2 reasons for that.
You also get ready to get a drink of water when I said that too.
Two reasons for that. One, we talked about cell phone policy. In years past, when kids had cell phones, Chad has a daughter at the high school, and actually 2 daughters at the high school, and I have 2 kids at the high school. In years past, if something was going on, especially me, I would get a text and say, "Hey, what's going on?" My kids wanted to know the dirt,
right?
But
they have that in.
But really, they don't have that opportunity now. And for us, when a fire alarm goes off and the fire department shows up, well, inevitably, people are driving by, and what do? Take a picture, and the next thing we know, it's on Facebook, and we're off to the races.
In that
point.
group that you spoke so effectively of.
That I will not, the group that will not be named. But here's the deal. I am a parent. Chad's a parent. We understand that if our kids, we don't know what's going on, we'd like to kind of have an idea. So Sarah Cantrell is our communications coordinator. She's done a great job with that. Our principals let us know, hey, and that was just happened to be a faulty fire alarm, and so it took a while to figure that out. And so we were able to put that on Facebook. But then I think the bigger thing is that we just want our community to understand what's going on in the school system. There's this big word right now that everybody says transparency, and we need more transparency, and everybody. Well, let's define what transparency is. Somebody tell me what that is, because here's the deal, Justin. I come on this new show, Town Talk once a month, and I'm trying to write a column in the newspaper, and I don't want to hide behind anything.
Right.
Listen, my email is swallowsg@warrenschools.com. If you've got a question, send it. And if you didn't write that down very quickly, warrenschools.com, I guarantee you can find my email, 668-4022. Call our office.
It was Swallows G.
Swallows G. And if we don't have the answer, we'll figure it out. Because again, the only way school works is if the community and everybody are involved.
Right.
We're not sitting on some high horse, or just I'm not sitting behind. I'm not the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain trying to make all this happen. We have to have community involvement in this, and so that's why on the Facebook page we're trying to get more information out. And we're not going to be perfect about that, because inevitably we're still going to have a situation to where we can't discuss every bit of it, because we're talking about kids,
right.
We're talking about employees, and then that's when social media becomes a beast, because people want to know all the gossip, and we just can't get into the gossip. And frankly, people that are posting, that are creating issues just so that they can get likes or reshares or whatever, that makes our job much harder.
Right.
And really, you're taking away resources from our kids and time that we could spend doing things for our kids, and that makes it difficult. So, but again, I can only control what I can control. Our Facebook page is something that I think I can control, and putting things out there that is important information, I think is the right thing to do.
Well, I appreciate that. As someone who needs to be able to read it, if something happens during the show, I'll mention it during the, whatever. Yeah. But no offense to you, Dr. Swallows, but I knew you weren't the wizard behind the curtain.
That's right.
Because you also weren't the guy that opened the door, or the guy that drove the carriage, because it's the same guy in all these different roles.
That's right.
So
yeah.
I think I stole that for Chad. I don't think he realized it was the same actor in all those roles. I'm sorry.
And we are very glad that I'm not all those. A lot of people are very glad that I'm not all those.
Nice to take a break from things like that.
That's right. Yeah.
We're going to take us a tiny quick little break, 130 or a minute 33, not 133. It's 93 seconds. Come back. Chad Graves chomping at the bit. Talk about a sports complex. Next,
all right. Sounds
here on
good.
Town Talk.
All right.
Warehouse Discount Grocery, serving McMinnville and Warren County with the best meats, freshest produce, and best prices on all your favorite groceries. Jimmy Dean sausage biscuits, $5.98. Boneless pork chops, family pack, $2.98 a pound. Old El Paso taco dinner kits, 6.7 to 21 ounce, 2 for $6. And Charter Reserve turkey at $8.99 a pound. Be sure to check out the full-service deli featuring meats from Charter Reserve, open 7 days a week at 835 Smithville Highway. That's Warehouse Discount Groceries.
Why don't you head over to Chicken Chef and enjoy a fresh, made-to-order meal, or choose from the all-time favorite like the Chicken Nugget Dinner. Stop in for breakfast, order right off the menu with sausage, gravy, fresh homemade biscuits, or try their delicious tenderloin, egg, and cheese biscuit, just to name a few. Whatever your taste buds call for, you're sure to find it at Chicken Chef. They've been serving Warren and surrounding counties for over 40 years. Stop in today, Chicken Chef on the Strip in McMinnville. You can call your order in to go at 473-5020.
If that rooster doesn't make you think of Pa Kelly, maybe Nursing Home Christmas will. We're kicking off the second annual Kelly Marlowe Memorial Nursing Home Christmas program. In his memory, we invite you to support our local nursing home patients by mailing a check to the local nursing home of your choice. Those are NHC Healthcare at 928 Old Smithville Road and Willow Branch at 415 Pace Street. And as Pa Kelly would say,
and from the bottom of my heart, thank you and Merry Christmas.
I just love hearing that voice. That's the voice of Kelly Marlowe as we come back here on Town Talk 97.7 WBMC. Justin Reed is my name. I am your co-host. In one of my sidecars, I just made the modification because what does it matter? As long as I don't drive it on the road, I can do whatever in the world I want to. So in one sidecar is Chad Graves. The other one is Dr. Grant Swallows, Director of Warren County Schools, is our monthly visit here. And Chad's chomping at the bit.
Well,
I'm going to turn you loose.
Dying to know more about a sports complex that's been talked about for many, many years. I know that there's been talk about having a football stadium, and I'm not saying a new football stadium is going to help correct, the football team, but there are lots and lots of activities around the football program. The Pioneerettes, the cheerleaders, the
Pioneerettes, by the way, which were just state champions.
That's right.
That's right.
And all of those things are kind of centered around a football game and the team. So I feel like it's pretty important. And I know that it's been said before, but whenever we built the high school way back, and it was completed, I think, in 94, there was talk about having a stadium and completing the new high school, as it's still called. It's still called the new high school. And we still don't have any a bigger sports complex. I know that we have baseball and soccer and softball there, but I feel like there needs to be some expansion.
Yeah. Well, since we're hitting all the fun topics this morning, it's one of those things to where, again, I've been here 4.5 years. We've talked about it. We actually have a plan that our architects drew up for us in order to try to put something like that on site at Warren County High School. And again, I'll just say this. I mean, obviously it's it's all about money sometimes when you talk about that. But to your point, Chad, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, we have a track at Nunley Stadium that is, because it's the way it's designed, there's no room for expansion because we've studied that as well. And in order to host a track meet, you have to have 8 lanes. And we only have 6 lanes. And because of where the bleachers are, you can't expand that. So all of our track events are on the road. Our student athletes have to go somewhere else to compete. And so we've talked about that several times. We've got a plan for that at Warren County High School. It's going to take, again, talking about the community, it's going to take the community coming together to put the funding together for that. Because, since I've been here, we've been very fortunate to add on to some different buildings. We've been using our federal relief money to do that so that it's not been a burden on our local dollars. But, again, it's tax dollars.
Right.
It's everybody's tax dollars because it's federal.
One way or another.
Well, absolutely. But why I say that is that the community is going to have to make a commitment to a funding a project like that, because that's not going to be something that can be done for just a few $1 million. It's going to be multiple millions of dollars to build a football stadium, build a track. But here's the other thing. We have tennis courts that we partner with the city that our kids have to drive to the Milner Center to be able to compete. And we're very grateful and appreciative of that. But for kids, they sure would like to be able to walk out of their building and be able to compete on tennis courts or whatever. But, at the same time, I appreciate the fact that you said that, because people do still call it the new high school. Mm-hmm. It's 30 years old, and they still call it the new high school. So it's time to complete that. Now, going forward, that's a decision for the school board of what direction they want to go, how they want to proceed with funding. But then again, the county has been good to us in my 4.5 years. But they are aware as well that there are going to have to be some things done. And I'll be quiet after this just to say, in a school system, we're constantly going to have capital needs. We have buildings that are old, that need to be kept up to date, and we need to be able to keep up and give our kids. I'll go back to what I said in the last segment. We want to give our kids the best experience that we can. Nunley Stadium is great. Our community loves Nunley Stadium, but at the same time, our kids, for all practical intents and purposes, they have 10 road games because they get on a bus to go to every football game they play. So lots of talk about that. I would love to see our community come together and say, hey, we're going to support this. We want to get this done. And if we do that, we can get it done.
Well, my daughter is on the tennis team, and it just feels like that they have to go to practice over at the city tennis courts.
Yep.
Like Grant said, it is great that they allow us to do that, but it just feels like it's an afterthought for the school system not to have the tennis courts, and the same thing for the track. And I know that we've had successful track athlete.
Yeah, state champion.
That's right, state champion, and I feel like we need to put a little more focus on that. And I would really love to see that happen over at the high school in the next couple of years, at least some progress.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Get the ball rolling at least a little bit more on that. That's how that works. But it sounds like the ball is rolling as much as it can be at the moment, and hopefully it will continue to roll.
Yep, we've got a plan in place. Again, a plan is just what's written on paper. Now, when it comes to
might be typed.
It is. When it comes to funding and really some decisions, like I said, that's a decision that the school board will have to decide and support. And again, I can't say this enough. We are really fortunate in Warren County to have a great set of school board members that make up a collective school board, and so they are aware of that. Chad, I mean, they've heard the same discussions you have. We've discussed it, and so we're moving forward incrementally. Probably not as fast as you or I want us to, but again, it's a big decision when you're talking about funding, and it affects a lot of people because it is taxpayer dollars, and we want to be good stewards of those taxpayer dollars.
One of the people in the studio, and he's not currently talking, and he's not Grant Swallows, I have learned gets a little impatient on things, so I'm sure he will like it.
Well,
am I wrong?
You are not wrong.
Okay, thank you.
You are absolutely not wrong.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
We all have our strengths, right?
So I'm looking ahead here, and anything else that you want to comment, feel free to interrupt, but we're going to be coming up on Thanksgiving break.
Yeah.
And that's a whole week off.
Whole week off. Boy, it's different than when we went to school.
Right.
I don't even know. Did we get Thursday off? Did we go in the morning and then got to Thanksgiving?
All your family just came to the cafeteria, just ate there, and went back to math class.
That's right. Yeah.
So get a whole week off.
So that's new. Well, that's not new. We did that last year. Lots of places are kind of doing that now. One of the reasons for that, if you're a parent sitting at home going, that's difficult, I get it. But our attendance was very sporadic during that week. And so now here's the other thing people have to understand. We got to go 180 days. I don't care where they are.
Yeah.
So if we're not going during 2 days during Thanksgiving week, then we're going somewhere else. So but I think our employees have enjoyed it, and I heard a lot of students that were thankful for it. And thankful! I didn't
look at you.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
I figured that was on purpose.
It was not. I wish I was that good, but
You'll
yes,
get there one of these days.
This Friday. But also, it's great that our schools do. They're having Thanksgiving lunch throughout this week.
Okay.
And I think they've invited parents and maybe grandparents. So it's a busy time for them, because not only is it difficult to feed the students we have every day, then you're bringing a lot more folks into the building.
But they do a good job with that.
They do, and it's a great experience for our families, and it's a good event for the communities as well.
I know over the break, some people may wonder, what about the people that rely on the school system for their meals, and so you send food home and try to help resources that way. I don't want people to think they're being neglected.
That's right, and they call them fuel bags. Lots of our schools send those home on the weekends, and they pack them a little extra on times where we know we're going to be out for a week, and so our Family Resource Center is also just second to none when it comes to helping people in our community. And I think, again, I come on here I've talked about this several times, but I just want our community to know we're not perfect. We certainly get talked about on social media and in the news for the things that we don't do well. I want people to understand that every day our school system, our students, our staff, and our faculty do an amazing amount of work and good work.
Right.
Something that our community should be proud of, and not just say, well, it's just awful. I read on Facebook it was awful, and because that oftentimes is just the exception and not the rule.
Right.
And just like you all mentioned, I mean, we talked about, I mean, our Pioneerettes were crown state champions this past weekend. And, our cheerleaders went and competed and came in 6th in the state. And so lots of great things are going on in our school system. I'm very proud to be a part of it, frankly.
Well, it's a good place to be. I'm just kind of looking ahead for those who may not have checked their calendar. You'll come back on the 2nd of December because December starts on a Sunday, which means you get a Friday the 13th.
Oh, that's twice.
Well,
twice this year.
Right, every month it starts on the Sunday.
Yeah,
that's how you get a Friday the 13th. In case you didn't know that one,
yeah.
But you'll go 2 full weeks, and then that third week is just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, with an abbreviated day on Friday.
That's right. So I sent an email to our staff on Monday and said, shockingly, that we only have 20 days left in 2024. 20 school days left in 2024. And it is interesting though too, because in years past. At the high school, everybody would continue on in the same classes. Well, we changed our schedule this past year to where they're doing a traditional block schedule. So they have 4 classes. They've met in those 4 classes since August. But now at the end of December, they're done with those 4 classes. They will get a grade, and they'll move on to different classes after the break. So they only have now 19 days left, and they've got EOC tests coming up in the next few weeks. That are very important for state accountability. And so if you've got a high school student, make sure that you're aware that they've got important tests coming up after Thanksgiving. And we want them to perform well on that. And but lots of activity, and there will be Christmas programs and all kinds of fun in the next 19 days.
We've got winter sports starting up.
Well, hold on. I got to ask him a question.
Uh-oh.
Can you stay over just a few minutes after 9?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you can ask him a question. I was going to say, we got 2 minutes till the break. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, winter sports are starting up, and I know that basketball starts tomorrow. They're going
tonight.
No, I was going to say tonight. Yeah.
Tonight. I'm still stuck on Monday.
I know, right? It was a Monday to be stuck on, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Well, so Walker Valley tonight?
At Walker Valley, yep. So really excited about that for our basketball teams. They've been working hard for the last few weeks, and Walker Valley will be a tough opponent. They're not shying away right off the bat. But they'll go down to Walker Valley. The start of the Kyle Turnham era for our girls, and Coach Danny Fish is in his 3rd year, I believe. That is his 3rd year, and so excited to see what they're going to do.
Well, I'm happy to say that we're going to be broadcasting that game on Star 107.
Yep. I don't know if you heard, we made the big move. All Warren County Pioneer Sports now broadcast on Star 107.
Jay Walker.
Yep, member of the Warren County Sports Hall of Fame.
That's right.
But with that, a couple of things. Star 107 has a better reach, listening frequency, both 107.3 and 0.7. But there's also an app that you can download so you can listen to it if you're not going to Walker Valley tonight.
Well, I'm not going to Walker Valley.
I was going to say, because that's a hell of a drive, because Jay was telling me about it last week.
Right, yeah. Well, I've got my own child. He plays at Hickory Creek, and so they play at Bobby Ray tonight. So if you see me, I may be sitting over in the corner with my phone up to my ear. So
we'll be glad to let you do so. But we're excited. We're going to carry every basketball game, right?
Almost every basketball game. There are a couple over the holidays that we probably will not carry, but other than that, we plan to carry every other basketball game.
Well, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you all making that commitment, because that's important to our community as well.
Right.
Because it's a way they can follow our student athletes, and I appreciate the fact that you all are willing to do that. And I love how Chad brings every conversation around to, hey, we're going to cover this. It's marketing genius.
You should work for it.
Yeah, right.
That's all I'm going to say. Dr. Grant Swallows is in. Chad Graves is sitting in with me as well. We're going to go into overtime. Look at me making a sports reference. I can do that on rare occasions. But we're going to come back. More Town Talk will be on the way in a moment or two. This is Town Talk. Don't forget about our websites, radio, WBMC.com. You can read all sorts of news stories. Oh, by the way, they're all free. This is Town Talk 97.7 WBMC. Justin Reed is my name. So glad to have you along with us here. I am your co-host, and I've got a whole studio full of fine folks today. Chad Graves is in with Main Street Media, our parent company, and Dr. Grant Swallows, the director of schools. We go into overtime when he visits on occasion, but I enjoy it, and I appreciate you. I really do. We say it in passing. I really appreciate you affording your schedule. It's not everybody's willing to come in and do an hour or an hour plus.
Yeah.
But
well, I appreciate the opportunity. It's good to I always enjoy visiting with you, Justin. Glad Chad's here this week, and it's again, as I said in the first hour, it's one of those ways that I get to talk about the good things going on in Warren County and specifically our school system, but also, answer the questions that people have, and so that's what I want to do.
And you do see these questions sometime on Facebook.
Yeah.
Sometimes people text you things, and I want to get to a text real quick.
Okay.
Brian Kell reminded me. I misspoke because I was uninformed. There is not an Android app for Star 107 at the moment. Due to some technical errors previously that have happened in the past, there is not an app. But you told me there is an app forthcoming.
That's right. So we were trying to get the app transferred from the previous ownership, and something happened in that transfer process that we could probably talk about later, but it never actually got transferred, and then it expired. So that app is no longer in existence. That's just for the Android app.
But what you could do, and then we'll get back to school system, but since you can listen tonight to the Pioneers pregame, of course, they're going to be an hour ahead, so you got to keep that in mind. What you could do is your smartphone probably has an internet browser.
That's right.
And you could just go to Star 107 and just play it on the website, and that would work. And I'll let you know when we get the new app. But just wanted to remind you that. BK, thanks for informing me. I was misinformed on that. So I can only tell you what I know, but I'm the first to tell you, hey, I spoke wrong. And
there you go.
I noticed that you'll do that as well when you say the wrong.
That's right.
Because we're just human. That's just how that happens.
There it goes. People are expecting perfection. They're going to keep expecting it for a long time.
Right. They're looking at the wrong place.
That's right.
We're all just doing the best that we can, and sometimes you have info that people want to hear, and sometimes you don't have people, or you have info that people don't want to hear, and they keep bugging you and bugging you, and you can only tell them what you know, right?
That's right. Yep.
So with that, if you see some comments, you gave your email earlier in the last segment.
Yeah.
You give your phone number.
Yeah.
People can ask questions.
Absolutely. Well, I want them to. Again, it's just the way the world works. I wish we would all treat each other with some respect when we do that.
Right.
We can disagree, but when we make it personal, which I think a lot of people tend to do these days on social media, it's easier to make it personal on social media. But if you make a phone call or make a visit, 2548 Morrison Street, or send an email to where we can interact, and I think it's just the way it goes. I'll be honest with you. I don't wake up every morning and go to my office thinking, I want to argue with somebody today. I really don't.
Right.
But I also am very aware that I make decisions that people are not going to always agree with. And so I'm happy to debate those decisions.
But that's the trust that the board puts in you
Sure.
to hire you to do this job.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a push and balance, checks and balance, if you will.
And I'm going to guess if the three of us talked about various topics, we wouldn't all three agree.
Right.
But we could sit and talk about it in a decent, respectful way. And again, I know it's the world we live in. This is not pie in the sky. I wish social media would go away. That's not it. It's not going to. I try to teach my own kids. I can only control what I can control. And we work hard every day to try to do that. But at the same time, you're not going to hear me shy away from saying that I think we need to treat each other with a little bit more respect. And,
right.
When we do that, I think our kids will benefit from it.
We need to go back to the 70s and all sit down and enjoy a can of Coca-Cola and sing, "I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony."
Right. Yeah.
At least get back to that theory.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to work, but if you would just honestly just treat each other, what's the golden rule? The way you want to be treated? Wouldn't that fix a lot of problems?
That's right. And again, I go back to we are showing our next generation the way to not do it.
Right.
And as an educator, that's difficult.
So thinking of education, of course, a lifelong educator here, Dr. Grant Swallows, is in with us. we get post-election. We're not talking politics, but one of the things that always comes up is, well, how are the schools? Are we going to change school policy, test scores? What is all this? Just any comment on that now that we're post-election? We can all collectively sigh that it's over?
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see how this next administration handles education because and here's the thing. I will say this. There's a narrative out there right now about our public schools that I disagree with, but that's okay because the narrative is being created by a lot of what you just talked about, one of which is test scores.
Right.
And if you've heard me talk about this before, which
we talked
interestingly, we talk about it.
I think one of our visits, it was at least 45 minutes of the hour visit.
So, test scores are an interesting thing because did you know, Justin, in 2005, 93% of our elementary school students were proficient in reading in 2005.
I like to take a little, because I was in elementary school there.
Yeah. But guess what? In 2024, that number has drastically decreased to the tune of 30%, 40%. And so I would ask the question did we suddenly just stop being good at reading, or did we suddenly stop being good at teaching reading? No. The question to that answer is no. The tests have consistently gotten harder.
Right.
I'm not against that. High expectations are part of what we do.
Right.
And it's our job as a school system to make sure that we're giving this. I go back to talking about football. We're giving the students the opportunity to have a good experience and be successful. I'll never shy away from that. So we have challenges in front of us. We certainly do. I get it. I will not say that our test scores they absolutely need to improve. If you've heard any teacher, I have said that to them. We understand that, but I don't want that to be the complete narrative about our school system because we have areas for improvement. But I will tell you, I'm so proud of our teachers and our students. If I could make an announcement right now, I would, but there are some things that are going to come out in the next few days or few weeks about the progress that we're making based on last year's test scores.
He won't even tell us.
Yeah, and so, it's embargoed.
Now, that's what I'm saying. It's not just he doesn't want to say it today.
So I can't announce that, but we do have some success. Now, again, I'm not going to say we're perfect. We're not. We still have a long, long way to go. But if we were not making progress, this would be a vastly different conversation.
Right.
And you have to understand, with 6,000 students, progress is incremental at best. And so we are working hard at that. Don't let that continue just to be the narrative about that. There are going to be people that want to use that as our public schools are failing because it's feeding a narrative of we need to adopt school vouchers or we need to adopt whatever their latest and greatest new program that's going to get them elected or their supporters that are going to get them elected to do. I can't affect all that, control what I can control,
right.
Create experiences where our students are going to learn, have a good experience and be successful, and give our teachers the things that they need to be able to do that. And I think the results from this past year's test scores allude to the fact that we're doing that in Warren County.
So something that I continue to hear out in the public is...
It's Chad Graves speaking, by the way.
Is neighboring counties, that have similar demographics as Warren County. Mm-hmm. It's like, why are they scoring better with the state tests than Warren County?
Sure. Yep. A fair question because it very much has to do with what you're talking about with demographics and the different things that go into that. What happens is that we serve 2 or 3 different masters when you're talking about test scores. You can talk about growth, which is a 1 to 5 model. You can talk about actual achievement, which is how many students are proficient on the test. You can talk about letter grades, which is something that was brand new that came out last year. And so what has to happen in that is that you're doing different measures. And so when Warren County is compared against Coffee County, you can look at either one of those models and say, okay, Warren County is either better or not. Now you've got different people coming out with their own model to say, well, we're better at this and we're not better at this. To answer your question, what we have to do is to understand what that test is measuring and be better at preparing our kids for that. And we call that Tier 1 instruction. That is the nuts and bolts of this is what we do. And our teachers are working so hard. Last few years, we transitioned from to a much more challenging curriculum with ELA and math. You know why I know it's more challenging? Because the phone calls I get from parents are, this is really hard. I can't help my kid with it. Well, guess what? That's what our teachers are trying to do every day. Mm-hmm. And we've made that transition to that more challenging curriculum, and it's been slow and incremental. And again, we've got to do better. We will do better. But it's one of those things that we are preparing kids for things that are different than what they were in 2005.
Is this the same type of curriculum that the neighboring counties have as well?
It is. So everybody shifted to what they call high-quality implementation 5 years ago. But now there are different curriculums. So, for an example, we use benchmark in our lower grades for ELA. Some other places may use some different things. But again, it all goes back to what I just said. It doesn't matter what you're teaching, as long as you've got to make sure you're teaching it well. And one of the things that we have to do is help kids understand the importance of what they're doing and then let them struggle through it. I'm a big believer, and this may be the headline, but if you've heard me talk about this, I don't believe that report card grades are positive in education because we focus on the product. So when I get my kid's report card home, I look at it and I say, oh, okay, well, you made A's. All right, well, great. You must be doing what you need to do, as opposed to looking at what they are going to need to be successful on a state test. So we may be propping them up to get those good grades, but we may not be teaching them exactly what they need to do to be successful on that. And so I have a lot of parents that say, why does my kid get A's and then he's not proficient or she's not proficient on the state test? Well, that's an issue, something we have to work on, because what happens is that when we send home a report card with a bad grade, a parent calls and says, well, why? Well, then our teachers need to be able to say, well, because Chad or Grant are struggling in this area. He needs help. And so instead, what we've focused on is look at the honor roll. We got to be on the honor roll. Do whatever it takes to be on the honor roll. Well, you can do that, but then you still might not be learning what you need to learn.
Well, I've noticed something similar as my kids do come home with good grades, and then whenever their test scores come out, I'm like, what is going on here? It's like they've had good grades the whole time. So I think there is a little bit of a disconnect.
There is 100%, and I would say that, and I think teachers would say that. Now, one of the things that we've gotten to in grading is that oftentimes we give grades for turning in your homework or and
participation grades.
Participation. That's not measuring what you learned. That's measuring that you did it, and that's in order to, affect a grade. But now, here's why you have to do that, because if you don't do that, kids oftentimes aren't going to turn it in.
Right.
So again, we're talking about the process and not the product. The product informs the process. We have to perfect that process. We have to get better at that process. And again, I will say this every time I talk to somebody about test scores. We are fully aware that test scores have to improve. If you talk about achievement and we're in between 30 and 40%, well, that means that you've got 6 kids that were not proficient out of 10. So if we line 10 kids up, and I say this, if you line 10 kids up, which 6 are you going to pick that are not going to be proficient? Now, I can put the other side of this on to say that in 2005, that test was a whole lot easier than the test we take today.
Right.
So then that was the other side of it. Look at us. We are 95% proficient. Well, that didn't accurately reflect. I don't think 95% of the kids in 2005 were proficient, but I also don't believe that only 30% are proficient today. I think you've got a test that's informing one way or the other. But with all that being said, tear all that away, Warren County School System, fully aware we need to get better at the process of teaching our kids what they need to be successful going forward.
So is there a plan? I'm sure that there is some type of plan in place to help improve that. Can you talk about that plan at all?
Well, I would push back on that to say every day we come to work to teach kids
is the plan. I knew that answer.
And so here's the thing, though. We spend a ton of time and resources preparing students or preparing teachers to get into that type of material. That's not a good answer. Let me say this. We're spending a lot of time preparing our teachers to use this high-quality material that they've never had to use before. I often thought, and maybe I just need to put this challenge out here right now, I'd like 20 people in our community, 20 adults in our community to come to our office and sit down and take this TCAP test and see how well they do on it. Because here's the deal. In ELA in third grade, long 2 pages worth of reading.
Yep.
And then questions are having to be answered. All right. Now, I'm not complaining about the test to say that it's hard and it's difficult, but we have to help teachers understand how a kid's going to be able to do that. Teachers are working on that. That's why they spend all their time planning. But at the same time, if we could just spend all day, every day working individually with that kid, preparing them for that, then things would be a whole lot easier. But that's not the case. We got classrooms that have 20 to 30 kids in there, and so they're having to teach them at all different levels. And so the plan encompasses all of that. We have kids coming to us at all different levels. We have them coming to us from all different backgrounds. That's why you'll hear me say when you have parent involvement, kids are much more they have much more of an opportunity to be proficient because they have involvement. It takes the parents, it takes the community, it takes the schools, it takes the teachers all working together to make sure that the kids understand what they have to do to perform.
Well, I have to say that the Skyward app is a great tool to help keep me involved in the kids' school grades, because I can see on a daily basis that, you know what, one of my kids has a 0 because they didn't turn in their homework.
Yeah.
So that actually gives me a chance to discuss with them, and.
So can I push you a step further?
Yes.
Ask those questions of why those assignments are not turned in, but take a step further of what did you learn from this, even when they've got 100 on that Skyward app. What did we learn? Are we making the progress? Ask your teachers, how is my student doing? Because here again, gosh, I may get in trouble for this, but my third grader, there's a law now that says you have to be proficient before you can be promoted. My third grader was not proficient on the third grade TCAP test last year. Now, there were some extenuating circumstances because he had one that afternoon after taking that test. He tested positive for the flu, had 102 temperature. So he's probably sitting there taking that state test with the flu. So I don't know you, but the last time I had the flu, I didn't want to go in and take a state test. But
I didn't go to work for a week.
Yeah. So that's part of it. But that's my point of one day, one test doesn't inform exactly what my child's proficiency level is. But at the same time, it also does inform the fact that he struggled a little bit. And so my job was to stop looking at that grade and start saying, all right, Judah, we got to take time to read this because you're struggling with the comprehension of it, and we've got to make sure we do that. And so that came through discussions with the teacher. And so we have parent-teacher conferences that, for the most part, we don't have a whole lot of engagement with that. My encouragement to our community and to our parents is go get involved. Ask those teachers. If those teachers are not able to give you the information you need, ask the principal. If the principal's not able to do that, we have to be good at that. We have to work together on this. It's nobody's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not blaming parents. I'm not blaming kids. I'm not blaming teachers. We have to work together to improve that because we can. We are seeing that. When I'm able to actually share the information, I can talk about one school's journey from being very low in test scores to now they're very impressive. It's what I'll tell you. I will detail that. Right. I promise you when I can.
Well, and it seems like to me as well that Chad made, and this just as the observer watching you two have this conversation on Town Talk, is he's starting to do the right thing. Is that he is taking a vested interest in his child/children's educational journey.
Yeah.
The school is there and you guys serve a good purpose.
Yeah.
But if everybody works together, you accomplish the goal better.
That's right. That's what it's going to take. And again, we have to fulfill our duty. Our job is to educate. And if we're not doing that, then we've got to pull ourselves up and make sure that we're doing that right thing. But I'm also asking for help from our community and our parents. And I think once we do that and work together, as opposed to saying, it's just as wrong for me to come on here and say, well, the parents are not doing anything. I'm not saying that.
Right.
Because I don't want them to turn around and point at us and say the school's not doing anything. You know who loses in that argument?
The kids.
The kid.
Every time.
When we work together, the kid will have the chance to be successful.
There's a song that Ned Miller sung, but Tommy Cash, Johnny's brother, had it on the Six White Horses album. It's called Do What You Do, Do Well. Mm-hmm. Do what you do well.
That's right.
You do well in the classroom, do well in the administrative. Students, if they do well, if everybody works together, you have a better goal.
Yeah.
Better chance at meeting the goal. Let me put that whole sentence in there.
Well, and I know that the standardized tests are not always indicative of the actual progress, but it seems to be the only way that we are able to measure across all of the different entire state of how well we're doing. So,
well, and that's where, again, you don't shy away from that argument. Lots of people will say, and I'm a believer in this, that some communities score better because of their demographics. But I don't even want to take demographics. I'm going to say some communities have more engagement, and they traditionally score better. But that's frankly, that's just an excuse. If we say our kids can't do this, then we're part of the problem. Our kids can do this, and we've got to give them the tools to be able to do this. And that's incumbent upon us. And guess what? It all falls back on the guy in charge, and I'm not going to shy away from that. We're going to work hard to do it. We're certainly not where we want to be with it, but I'm not going to shy away also from saying I would go to bat for any teacher in our system and any school in our system to say that they're working hard at it. And I'm not going to diminish their effort by saying that all is lost. And that's one thing we do really well these days, is that we try to make people scared of something and tell them that that school system's a failure, and we got big problems because of individuals. And I'm simply not going to sit there and let our educators be vilified because of that. Because I see what they do every day, and they're performing miracles, in my opinion. So
need to cue up some Twisted Sister.
Yeah, well,
we're not going to take it.
No, well, and again, I get it. Chad's making great points. And I hope I've answered your questions to say that we certainly see need for improvement, but at the same time, it's not for a lack of effort and lack of work, because our teachers and our staff are working extremely hard to make a difference. And they will. It'll be slow. It'll be incremental, but it will be a process that we'll get better in.
Well, I know that sometimes our kids have really good teachers that have really good engagement, but there are a lot of times where the teachers aren't, really living up to the expectation that that we all have for them as an educator. And I know that it's sometimes difficult to remove a teacher whenever there are things like that in place. Can you talk about that briefly?
Well,
the answer's no. It's not a brief. I read the room on that one.
Well, I mean,
you just need to interview him on your own.
I think what you're saying is, tenure laws and things like that. I mean, to me, that's not as important as it was 10 years ago, because there are various ways. It's much harder to get tenure, but at the same time, there's a reason that we're having a harder time getting qualified teachers. You know why? Because we're doing, for the most part, what I talked about is that we're blaming each other.
Right.
And so why would a teacher want to get blamed by parents for not doing what they need to do? Now, again, that being said, we're not perfect. We make mistakes. And we're not all at the same level that everybody else is on a playing field. But when you talk about removing a teacher because of that, I think tenure, for the most part, in our history, led us to the place of what you're talking about is, well, a teacher gets tenure. Well, don't do what they're supposed to do at that point. Well, that's kind of the prevailing thought, but I don't see that as much anymore. But a part of it is accountability. That's why we call state tests accountability. If we didn't feel like teachers need to be held quote unquote accountable, you wouldn't even need these tests. You wouldn't need teacher evaluations. That started back in 2010 on a formal level. And so there's things that have been put into place to hold educators accountable. That's the same way for me. I'm held accountable by the contract that I signed to work here with a board, but I'm also held accountable by those test scores that come out every year.
Yep.
Because people are going to talk about them, and they're going to judge me based on what that is. And so, again, I've got to be accountable to that. The teacher has to be held accountable to that. Now, what's not in there is what they do every day when a kid comes to him, Justin talked about, that hasn't had breakfast and may not have supper. And the only hot meal they're going to get is a breakfast at school and a breakfast at lunch. Or a lunch.
We might have breakfast for lunch.
We might. But, that's what our educators are doing for our kids as well. So I don't want to lose sight of that.
It's more than just the test scores. It's more.
It is.
For them, it may just be a sense of, you know what, I'm glad to see you today.
Yeah.
And that could change their whole life or their whole day.
And again, you want to change education on its head, then appreciate what teachers are doing right now. Hold them accountable. I'm not saying don't say that you expect what's anything less. I'm not asking you to do that, but there's a way to do that respectfully and in an appreciation. If a teacher gets a visit from a parent and says, "Listen, my child is struggling with comprehension," and a teacher is not able to say, "This is what I'm going to do to help them," hold them accountable to that. I guarantee you that they will respond to that. They will rise to that challenge. Now, I also want you to understand you've got 20 or 30 kids in that classroom that may all be struggling with comprehension. So that's why it's important that parents are involved with this, because they can't do that individually. Now, we've got tutoring in place, and we got all that. This goes back to what we've started back, 5 hours ago when I started this interview.
I won't have him next time. It'll just be you and me. I'm sorry.
It's not one silver bullet fix to make test scores go up. It's all of those things working together, and teachers and systems have to be right, but at the same time, so do our parent support, our community engagement, and all those things too.
Well, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
We've run over way, but I don't mind it because the boss is sitting in with me, so I feel like that's my...
Well, I think it's important.
it is.
I want people to understand that we're not just burying our head in the sand.
I'm just giving him a hard time.
Yeah. Well, he deserves it. So,
Thank you. That's what I thought too.
We're not burying our head in the sand to ignore this. It's not like we are not aware of it, and it's not like we don't work every day on it. Because I can show you we are making incremental progress. But again, for the parent that's sitting at home, they don't necessarily care about the district progress on test scores. They want their kid to have the best experience, and they want their kid to learn. And I get that because I'm a parent of 3 of them. Mm-hmm. And so I want that same thing. I want that conversation to be taking place. I want that parent to come in and talk to the teacher and say, what can I do to help my child? What can we do to help my child get better? And when you perfect that process, then as a whole, watch those district test scores take off.
Right.
And again, we have to be good in practice, and we will be. We won't be perfect, but we have to be good in practice.
As we start to, are you good, Chad?
I'm good.
Okay. This is Town Talk 97.7 WBMC running over. We'll do swap and shop tomorrow. Come back in a minute. Anyways, okay. Now that I've done my, legal stuff. 2 things I want to think about as we close, because I know you're a busy man. 1, your next visit will be on the 10th of December.
Yep.
If you need to come on and talk about this forthcoming info before then, you let us know, and we'll be glad to bump somebody else. Let's just hope it's not Jackie 2 weeks in a 2 times in a row.
It's hard. I'm not comfortable with bumping the sheriff, frankly. I may leave here, and you think I may get pulled over. I got better obey all traffic laws.
We'll make no comments on this. One of my other questions for you is, because you always are the best dressed person in the room when you do these radio interviews, will I expect to see a holiday tie?
I don't know. I don't have any holiday ties.
You
Maybe
don't have any?
I
I
do
have like
not.
12 or 14. I may have to
you?
loan you one.
You may have to, yeah.
I have enough I could start in September, wear one every Sunday.
Do you?
Oh,
Good for
yeah.
you. Yeah, maybe I'll wear
People give
red
the
and
preacher
green.
Christmas ties, you know.
They do. I'll maybe wear red and green at the next
Okay.
one.
I'm just.
But see, you usually give me homework. Like
Yeah.
I was supposed to figure out how many left-handed kids.
And
we
you
had,
didn't?
and I didn't. I failed.
I've
on
quit
that.
giving
See,
you homework.
My Skyward account would not reflect positively on my.
And the
homework.
problem is because I still use a typewriter, so you don't have a digital app to check on it.
Wow.
So yeah,
Good for you.
yeah. Me and Mr. Graves disagree on technology uses because I like paper and he's paperless. But
Yeah.
anyways, one of the things I like when you send out your emails to the teachers, you usually do some inspirational quote. Have you had a good one lately you can think of?
Gosh, I don't know.
Because
let's see.
I always look at the show prep I use. They give me the celebrities celebrating birthdays today.
Yeah.
And I usually get some birthday quotes, and
Yeah.
there
Well,
were actually.
I've got one that I'll share because
Okay.
because it is our last week before Thanksgiving. My Monday morning quote was about gratitude, and it was from Eckhart Tolle that said, "Acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance." Acknowledging the good for what you have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. Because when you stop and look and see all the good around you,
Yep.
then everything above that is abundance.
Right.
And so we don't do a great job, and that's a great way for me to wrap up my part is a lot of times we don't recognize the great part around us. We only want to look at the bad.
Right.
And so when we go down to the bad and come back to the good, that's not abundance. That's just getting back to where we were. We want to make sure we recognize the good around us. And we've got a great community. Personally, I think we've got a great school system. I appreciate you all allowing me to come on and talk about it.
Certainly. Well, we enjoy it. And you remember Jodie Foster from Taxi?
Yeah.
Birthday today. She said, normal is not something to aspire to. It is something to get away from.
Yeah. Interesting.
There you go.
Yeah.
And you may remember James A. Garfield.
Yes.
20th president, his birthday today, 1831. He said, next in importance to freedom and justice is popular education, without which neither freedom nor justice can be permanently maintained.
There you go.
There's you some more quotes.
I appreciate that. I'm going to start emailing you and letting you do that.
It's my show prep. They did it, not me. But when I was reading it this morning, I thought, I need to share those with him.
Yeah.
Dr. Grant Swallows has been in with us, and we appreciate the overtime and extra innings. Is that how this? I'm not a sports guy, so
you're on par for both of them.
Good.
Another sports reference.
Look
on
at me.
par.
Look
Yeah.
at me.
I did do that one
you.
on
Look at
purpose.
you.
Yeah.
And he was sitting down. If he'd been standing up thinking on his feet, it would have been even quicker, you know? They can email you once again, the email phone number.
SwallowsG@warrenschools.com, 931-668-4022.
We wish you a joyous Thanksgiving.
And to you.
Hope you, if you're a big eater, eat a whole lot. If not, I'll eat enough for you. Dr. Grant Swallows is in. Chad Graves is in. Chad, just stay for another. After this break, we'll close it out together. Grant Swallows, wish you a safe day, okay?
Hey.
And we are back as we close out a special edition of Town Talk. You don't have to stand. I was just already standing and tired of standing, so there we go. This is Town Talk 97.7 WBMC. Justin reads my name. Grant Swallows just left. Looking at Chad Graves. Have you enjoyed today?
I really enjoyed this, Justin. Thank you for letting me do this.
Yes, it's nice to have you. Frequently, you're in the studio on the other side where I can't talk to you on the air, but I've enjoyed this as well. Come back sometime if you want to visit with us. And glad to work here at Main Street Media and excited for where we are and what the future holds. And I'm sure we'll find out more about that as the future progresses.
Absolutely. Well, Justin, I appreciate everything that you do here. This show is a long-standing I don't know how many years have we had.
I'm thinking at least 45 years.
45 years of Town
Somewhere
Talk.
in the 40s for certain.
And you have done an outstanding job keeping everything going.
I try.
And I feel like things, started sort of to slide. And when we came in, and you were able to keep it going, all with very little help from anyone else. So
you notice. I appreciate that.
We appreciate what you've done here.
Well, I sincerely appreciate that, and it's a fun show to come to every morning. I do want to thank the listeners. Pull the curtain back, since we alluded to the Wizard of Oz. We're going to do birthday celebrations tomorrow, since we didn't get a chance to do that today, and obviously no swap and shop today. We'll swap and shop again tomorrow, so we do get to still go to Bible class. So before we do, Chad, I always try to close out with something funny I found online, and I don't remember when. I don't remember where, but I don't know if you saw, came across my feed this morning. It says the local bowling alley is closed due to a strike.
That's a good one.
The jokes are always that terrible, but it's worth the price of admission. Chad, thanks so much.
Thank you, Justin.
Can I leave you some words of wisdom? A good friend once told me one time.
Please.
Said that knowledge is power and power corrupts. So study hard, be evil, and take over the world. Y'all come to see us when you can here on Town Talk 97.7 WBMC.
Thanks a lot.
That's all, folks.
You've been listening to Town Talk on WBMC 97.7. The views expressed by callers, guests, or hosts do not necessarily reflect those of Main Street Media LLC or their subsidiaries.